You have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
CEO of Blackrock is melting down at shareholders meetings over the perceived and actual loss of power of the ESG funds that have been ruining the gaming industry by supporting these factional organizations within gaming companies and development companies that are trying to force behaviors in the video game industry when it comes to diversity, employment, or just the overall development process of video games themselves. And of course, this is a win for the gamers, where the CEO of Blackrock, the world's biggest investment fund with over $10 trillion in corporate 401k investment funds to use and to influence the industry, is having a setback where people are backing away from giving their money to this company because it's politicization of different fields in the corporate world. And I think this is something that is astonishing to the Blackrock CEO, because he was so confident about forcing behaviors in multiple industries that he thought this was infallible. This would not have any obstruction from any organization, because everyone would fall in line over the weight of the power of Blackrock itself and its influence. But that's not the case. There's backlash in multiple industries, including the video game industry, where multiple studios are going bankrupt, multiple industries are losing their influence and power and overall corporate value by following these standards that he was trying to force upon these organizations with ESG scores that deemed how valuable your company is and how investment worthy your company is and how much loan interest should be handed to your company. And I think this is the critical thing about ESG scores that were developed by Blackrock, is how they influence how banks invest in your company. And I think getting low interest to interest free loans is a critical thing that influences companies to follow these DEI standards that have destroyed the video game industry. And to see multiple funds backing away, taking out their money from Blackrock ESG funds, it's showing the influence of ESG is waning and people are backing away from it, seeing it as a lost leader rather than the profitable fund that the Blackrock CEO Larry Fink had purported it to be. You can see USA, Europe funds are changing their sentiments and regulations around ESG funds, showing that there is no one that really is interested in a failing product. And that's the case. ESG funding has been deemed a failing product across multiple organizations and industries. And I think this is the thing that is making the Blackrock CEO melt down in a recorded shareholders meeting, where he's blaming the politicization of overall ESG funds on this kind of polarized society where people are in politicized factions. It's interesting for him to say this when he was the one talking about forcing political behaviors because he wanted more influence on people's livelihoods and their overall political thought processes. And I think this is a funny thing coming from him, saying people are politicizing this when you were the one that politicized it first. And he's following that kind of overall social progressive thought form where they always gaslight you and blame you for the thing that they caused. And it is not that surprising to see him have that overall same thought process as many people have seen from companies like Sweet Baby Inc., like many others like Black Girl Gamers, and similar to these journalistic platforms like IGN or Kotaku, where they gaslight the fans saying you're to blame for what we did. And I think that's the thing we're getting from Larry Fink. But you listen to it yourself and tell me what you think, what Larry Fink is saying in the shareholders meeting.
I've spoken before about the fear we see today. Some of it stoked by increasingly political polarization in the world. Our industry and Blackrock have been a subject of political dialogue, mostly in the United States. We recognize some of this with being the industry leader. We have done a better job now of telling our story so that people can make decisions based on facts, not on lies and not on misinformation or politicization by others. Unfortunately, there's still others out there who put short-term politics, who continuously lie about these issues. They're putting those issues above the long-term fiduciary responsibilities. As a fiduciary, politics should never outweigh performance. I do believe that with a vast majority of our clients, Our long-term fiduciary approach and performance are resonating.
So you heard that. It's obvious that Larry Fink is really frustrated. You can hear the anger in his voice when he's talking about this situation, saying these people have done something that we didn't intend to do, when in actuality it was the intention of BlackRock to force these political behaviors within the industry. And you can say this was done for the right purpose or the right reason. He had the right meaning behind what he wanted to do. He wanted diversity. He wanted overall inclusion within the workforce. And that's all well and good. But by forcing it through these companies, making them hire low quality employees rather than developing this diverse force of high quality employees through time and education, they lowered the standards within these companies, resulting in the ultimate failures of multiple studios, multiple industries. And I think that is the thing that ESG is failing to do. You have to develop talent and not just force people into positions where they're supposed to deliver and they don't have the talent to deliver. And I think that's what we're seeing in the video game industry, where we see people forced into positions of power that have no talent and don't even have interest in the industry that they've been forced into a power position. And you see this in video games, where you see multiple people that have powerful positions in gaming that don't care about games, don't know anything about games, but they're promoting and working on games development, and they actively hate video gamers. So how are you going to get a product that is of quality from that situation? And I think that's the problem with ESG and these DEI programs, where you're forcing people that don't have the talent. You're not cultivating the talent within diverse communities. You're not finding people with these interests when they're young and giving them the opportunity to become good at something. You're just finding people that look a different shade, that have different gender preferences or pronouns, and you're putting them in positions of power where they can't deliver, where it is required of them to deliver something of quality and profit. And I think that is a situation that ESG funding is failing at. And if they alter their position into developing actually talented individuals that are actually interested in the industries you're trying to change the overall makeup of, people wouldn't complain, because you brought in talented people that make great video games, make great product, and there will be no opportunity to complain, because the planes that they built won't be falling apart. It will be the best quality plane, or the best quality game, or the best quality of anything. So I think that is a failure of ESG itself, where it's ignoring quality in the customer base in favor of just diversity and virtue signaling. And I think that's essentially what we're seeing nowadays with BlackRock, where it is trying to force these sort of thought processes in national progressive socialistic ideology, rather than actually making a funding group that is out to make a profitable outcome for its investors. And I think essentially that's what we're getting. And I think a lot of the people that have invested in BlackRock are noticing the same thing, that we're not getting what we wanted back in our investments, and ultimately we're not seeing the results that we were hoped for and promised of. And when you look back at it, BlackRock and Vanguard, two of the biggest investment firms in Wall Street, they're doing the same things and not delivering on what they were supposed to do as their company directive, which is delivering profitability to their investors. And I think that is them being the political entity in this faction or overall cause of the situation. And it is good to see them taste their own medicine. I think this is something well deserved, and hopefully it will change the industry in and of itself, because we know over hundreds of billions of dollars are being taken out of these ESG funds. That is a significant chunk of change in there. So it is something to lose hundreds of billions of dollars. That's a significant portion, and this is just the beginning of the trend. So hopefully this continues on, and they're going to have to pivot into something that is more focused on developing talent rather than virtue signaling that they actually are interested in minorities. So hopefully that's the case. You tell me what you think is the future of ESG funding, and are you laughing at Blackrock CEO and his meltdown? I'm laughing at it, but he's still running $1 trillion company, and the influence is undeniable, and I'm just hoping they change their direction. But you tell me what you think about the situation. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.